Today, as I sit at home, I find myself staring at the trophy once again. The sunlight filters through the window and glimmers on its surface. That golden shine constantly takes me back to that night, that unforgettable night. As a child running barefoot through the streets of Rosario, no one could have imagined that this story would end like this. That small boy with big dreams, and now here I am, at the very top of the world, nothing missing. In the early years of my marriage to Antonella, she would sometimes worry about me. "Why do you care so much about the World Cup, Leo?" she would ask. "You're already the best in the world." But she didn't understand the weight of it, because it wasn't just about a trophy. It was about my country, my identity, my very breath. There were countless nights I couldn't sleep, tormented by the words, "Messi can't win the World Cup." On social media, in newspapers, on television, everywhere the same sentence, the same criticism, the same pain. But now, here I am, the man who lifted that trophy, the captain who led his team into that final, the player who took that penalty. No one can ever again say, "Can't." Because I did, because I succeeded, because I proved it. During those golden years at Barcelona, Pep would often tell me, "Leo, you're from another planet." Maybe he was right, but that planet was incomplete because it had no World Cup. Now it is perfect. Now nothing is missing. When we won the Copa America, I felt a little relief. But the World Cup was different, greater, unique. It seemed untouchable until that night. On the plane to Qatar, I thought to myself, this is my last chance. Truly my last chance. I was 35. My body wasn't the same. My speed wasn't the same. But my desire had never been stronger. I still remember the horror of that night after the loss to Saudi Arabia. I couldn't sleep. I stood on the balcony for hours, staring at the lights of Qatar. Will it not happen this time either? I asked myself over and over. But then I heard a voice deep inside. Leo, this is your time. This is your moment. This is your story. When I looked around the locker room at the young players, I saw the hope in their eyes, and it moved me. Enzo Fernandez, Julian Alvarez, Alexis McAllister, they were young. For them, this was the match of their lives. For me, it was the last chance. For them, the first opportunity. When I scored against Mexico, it felt like being reborn. As the ball left my left foot, I felt my heart race. The instant it crossed the line, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. It was a different Messi now, standing on that pitch. We got past Poland, we eliminated Australia, and then came that match against the Netherlands. Van Gaal's tactics, Weghorst's last-minute goal, the unbearable tension. In extra time, I could hardly breathe. My heart felt like it would explode. But then came Dibu's save in the shootout. When I embraced him in that moment, I felt hope swelling inside my chest. In the semi-final against Croatia, I stepped onto the pitch with a different energy, as if I had been born for that night. Facing Modric in midfield, it was the last dance of two old lions. We both knew only one of us would play in the final again. I won that battle. On the morning of the final, I stood before the mirror for a long time. The lines on my face, the gray in my hair, the fatigue in my eyes, but the determination was still there. This is your day, Leo, I told myself. This time you will not lose. And so it was. When I scored the opening goal against France, I felt relief. But I also knew we still had a long way to go. Across from us stood a monster named Mbappé. And yes, he came back. He dragged France into the game, scoring a hat trick. But I didn't give up. I never gave up. My goal in extra time, that was the most important goal of my life, because it brought us one step closer to the dream. But again, Mbappé struck 3-3. Then, penalties. Everything came down to this. Before stepping up, I looked at the sky. Diego was there. Pelé was there. All the legends were watching. This is your moment, Leo, I told myself. I ran, I struck, I scored. The rush I felt after that penalty, I cannot describe it. My whole body felt electrified, as if I were flying. When my teammates piled on top of me, in that instant, all my pains, all my disappointments, all the criticisms vanished, erased. When I lifted the trophy, the world stood still for me. The sound, the passion, the joy pouring from the stands, I could feel it all, because I wasn't lifting it only for myself, but for 45 million Argentines, for their dream, the celebration in Buenos Aires, 4 million people in the streets, children crying with joy, elders shouting in relief, young people dancing. All of them were me, and I was all of them. That day, Argentina was one heart. Now, when old age comes, I will tell my grandchildren this story. Your grandfather was a world champion, I will say, and they will look at me with pride. This legacy will last forever. Children now wear my shirt and feel something different, because I am no longer just a great footballer. I am a legend. I am part of history. I am a world champion. This story ends here, but the legend will live on forever. And me, I am at peace now. Truly, completely at peace. At the end of the tunnel, I see the light. As I step onto the grass of Lusail Stadium, I feel the last hope burning inside me. This is my 5th, and likely my final, World Cup. I am 35 years old, and my time is running out. The roar of 88,000 fans echoes in my ears, but all I can hear is my own breath. I take a deep inhale. This time must be different. This time, I must win. I close my eyes, and the darkness takes me back. 2014, Brazil, the Maracana. The final we lost against Germany. The silver medal hanging around my neck felt like the weight of the world crushing me. I still see Götze's goal in the 113th minute. It remains the most painful moment of my career. The cup had been within reach, and yet it slipped through my fingers. 8 years have passed since that night. 8 years of hearing, Messi will never be Maradona. He is great at his club, but with Argentina, he wins nothing. Every street, every cafe, every sports program echoed the same question. Why can't Messi win the World Cup? The weight grew heavier with every passing year. But today is different. Today, I will lay that burden down. When we arrived in Qatar, we carried a 36-match unbeaten run behind us. We had finally won the Copa America. But the World Cup was something else. This tournament is why I was born. This tournament is why I lived. And this tournament is why I am here. The first match was against Saudi Arabia. We thought it would be easy. I scored a penalty to give us the lead. The stands erupted in blue and white. But then everything collapsed. We lost 2-1. When the final whistle blew, the ground disappeared beneath my feet. In the locker room, silence. Some cried. I wanted to cry too, but I couldn't. I was the captain. I had to be strong. That night, in the team meeting, I stood and spoke. Listen to me. This tournament doesn't end here. We still have 2 matches. And I promise you, we will return home with pride. I looked into their eyes. Enzo, Julian, Emi Martinez. Most of them were young. This was their dream too. If you want to live these emotions with me, subscribe to the channel. The match against Mexico was critical. A draw would have left us in serious trouble. For most of the match, no goals came. Then, in the 64th minute, Angel found me. I struck with my left foot. Goal. The joy was indescribable. As my teammates piled on me, I saw Argentine fans in tears in the stands. That goal wasn't just a goal. It was our rebirth. We beat Poland. We advanced from the group. But the true test was only beginning. We eliminated Australia. Then came the Netherlands. Ah, that Netherlands match. Up 2-0, we thought it was over, but they scored twice in the final minutes. Extra time, penalties. Emi Martinez became the hero of the night. When he made that save, my joy was as great as his. The semifinal was Croatia. Modric, Kovacic, that incredible midfield. But that night, I was different. I scored the first goal, assisted Julian for the second, and was involved in the third. 3-0. Final. At last, the final. At the whistle, I hugged Modric. 2 old lions crossing paths for the last time. And then came the day. December 18th, 2022, the World Cup final. France, Mbappé, Griezmann, Giroud, a perfect team. But we were ready. That morning, waking in the hotel, I felt a strange peace. The weight I had carried for years seemed lighter. Entering the stadium, the voices of our fans filled my chest. Messi! Messi! They roared. This time, there was no fear in their voices, only belief. In the 23rd minute, we won a penalty. I picked up the ball, breathed deep, stared into Loris's eyes. Left corner. Goal. 1-0. I kept my celebration inside. The job was not done. In the 36th minute, Mac Allister found Di Maria. He finished beautifully. 2-0. The stadium exploded, but I knew France would not give in. And they didn't. In the 80th minute, Mbappé scored from the spot. A minute later, his volley. 2-2. Unbelievable! My heart pounded in my chest. I struggled to breathe, but I did not give up. In extra time, we went ahead once more. I scored 3-2. This time with the cup so close, we could not lose. But Mbappé was desperate for his hat trick. In the dying minutes, he struck again. 3-3. Penalties. If this moment gave you chills too, leave a like on this video. Penalty shootouts? My entire career condensed into 5 steps. I went first. I stared into Loris' eyes, sent it to the right corner. Goal. Then Mbappé. Goal. Our turn. Goal, goal, goal. Theirs, goal. Miss, goal. Then came Gonzalo Montiel. He took the ball, ran, struck. Goal. World champions. The world stopped in that instant. My teammates piled on top of me. I cried. At last, I cried. In my 35 years, I had never felt happiness like that. When I held the trophy, I felt its weight. But this time, it was a different weight, a glorious weight. Lifting it above my head, my eyes swept across the stands. I saw my family, Antonella in tears, Thiago, Matteo, and Ciro bursting with joy. That moment was for them. That moment was for all of Argentina. If you don't want to miss football's greatest stories, turn on notifications. In Buenos Aires, 4 million people welcomed us home, the streets painted blue and white. On the bus, lifting the cup high, I felt once more how deeply this country breathes football. Children wept, the elderly prayed, the young sang, and I simply smiled. Memories of magical nights in the Camp Nou flashed before me. Goals against Real Madrid, Champions League nights, Pep's symphony of football. But nothing compared to this, because this was for my country. Now I am complete. Now the voices will fall silent. No one will ever again say, it doesn't count without the World Cup. The distance between me and Diego has closed. I know he must be smiling from above, because this trophy wasn't just mine, it was Argentina's. It was the world's. I look to the future now. Maybe this wasn't my last World Cup. Maybe I'll be there in 2026. But the pressure is gone. Now I am free, because my dream became reality, because I finally brought that cup home. This story is not just a football story. It is the story of never giving up, the story of chasing your dreams, the story of what is possible, even at 35. And the heroes of this story aren't just me. They are the millions who danced in the streets that night. They are my teammates who believed. They are my family who loved me. I remember those days in the small neighborhoods of Rosario, kicking a ball on dusty fields. My father, Jorge, always told me, Leo, you will carry this ball to the World Cup. Back then it felt like a dream. Now it is real, golden, shining, magnificent. When I return from PSG training, I see it there, on the shelf, glowing under the lights, whispering to me, you did it, Leo. At last, you did it. Sometimes Thiago, Matteo, and Ciro pick it up and play with it. To them, it's just their father's trophy. But to me, it is the work of my life. Even now, at Inter Miami, when I step onto the pitch, I close my eyes and relive December 18th. The penalties, the joy, the tears, and then I walk out smiling, because now nothing is missing. Journalists still ask me, Messi, what's next? What's your new goal? I smile and answer, now everything is a bonus. Because I finished the story, I wrote the missing final chapter, and now I can live in peace. I think back to those glorious years in Barcelona, the football festivals we lived through with Pep, but none of it ever felt this deep, because this was for my country, for this flag, for these people. Sometimes I watch the replay of our final on television. When I see myself stepping up for that penalty, I still get goosebumps. The moment the ball struck the net, I can still hear the sound. That corner, unreachable for Loris. This story is no longer just mine. It belongs to millions. It belongs to the children dancing in the streets, the fathers weeping with joy, the mothers praying in gratitude. This is Argentina's story. When I visited Maradona's grave, I whispered, Diego, we did it. At last, we did it. He must be smiling from above, because now there is no gap between us. Now, we are both world champions. As a boy at Newell's, one of my coaches once told me, you're different, Leo. You'll take this ball very far. He was right, but not even he could have imagined just how far. I still remember that night after the Saudi Arabia loss. Alone in my hotel room, I thought, what if it doesn't happen this time either? But then I stood, looked into the mirror and promised myself, this time will be different, Leo. This time you will be different. And it was. With every match, I grew stronger. With every goal, I believed more. With every victory, I moved closer to the dream. Today, as I sit at home, I stare at the trophy once again. Sunlight pours through the window, gleaming off its golden surface. That color takes me back to that night, that magical night. As a boy running barefoot through the streets of Rosario, no one could have imagined this ending. That small child, those big dreams. And now here I am, on top of the world. In the early years of my marriage, Antonella would sometimes get upset with me. "Why do you care so much about the World Cup?" she'd ask. "You're already the best in the world." But she couldn't understand, because it was never just about a trophy. It was about my homeland, my identity, my very breath. At Barcelona, Pep used to tell me, "Leo, you're from another planet." Maybe he was right, but that planet was incomplete because it had no World Cup. Now, at last, that planet is perfect. I still remember the terror of that night after the Saudi Arabia. I couldn't sleep. I stood for hours on the balcony, staring at the lights of Qatar. What if it doesn't happen again? I asked myself, but deep inside, a voice answered, "Leo, this is your time. This is your moment." Against Mexico, when I scored that goal, it felt like rebirth. The moment the ball left my left foot, I felt my heartbeat race. The instant it crossed the line, I knew nothing would ever be the same. The tension of the Netherlands match, Van Gaal's schemes, Weghorst's last-minute goal, I could barely breathe in extra time. But then Dibu's save in the penalties. When I embraced him, I felt hope swelling in my chest. In the semi-final against Croatia, I walked onto the field with a different energy, as if I had been born for that night. Facing Modric, that duel in midfield, it was the last dance of two old lions, and I won. On the morning of the final, I looked long into the mirror. "This is your day, Leo. This time you will not lose." And so it was. Before my penalty, I looked to the sky. Diego was there. Pelé was there. All the legends were there. The ecstasy after that last penalty, I can't describe it. My whole body felt struck by lightning. My teammates piled onto me, and in that moment, all the pain, all the heartbreak, all the doubts vanished. When I lifted the trophy, the world stopped. The roar, the joy, the passion flooding from the stands. I felt it all, because I wasn't lifting it just for myself, but for 45 million Argentines. One day when I grow old, I will tell my grandchildren this story. "Your grandfather was a world champion," I will say, and they will look at me with pride. This story ends here, but the legend will live forever.